any development beyond that, in terms of commercial or retail, would go through the site plan process. Single-family residences would not. If the developer and or the city felt it appropriate to amend the district, they could do that at any time in the future. So, a lot of stuff. I'm not sure how much you want to talk about this in detail, but I can certainly add and answer any questions.
Initial discussion by the planning commission.
Yeah, you created a traditional neighborhood subcommittee of the planning commission about a year ago. Last September, members of that committee visited Milton Hills, which is a TND, walked the streets, looked at all the design features. They are significantly different than anything you find around Evansville. We also, some people live to Sun Prairie, is that correct, or did that get canceled?
Some people on their own
Live to Sun Prairie, okay. And we also reviewed plats from Sun Prairie and some other communities that you brought in. We reviewed each one of these TMDs are set up slightly different, but in a similar pattern. We reviewed those, and the outcome of all those discussions is this ordinance today. Traditional neighborhood designs is an attempt to prevent sprawl by increasing the number of buildable housing or dwelling units per acre. Correct. They also are they're walkable neighborhoods because you're close to the sidewalk, and streets are narrow and they're hard to navigate in a way, so you don't see much speeding going on and stuff like that. They're a hot ticket in the Madison area, and there's a thought that this being market, the G&D market, may be also applicable to Madison. Is that about it?
And I forgot to mention, this was something that is really central to the city's comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
A lot of new development is labeled as walkable neighborhoods. That's what the TND is intended to create.
The Smart Growth Comprehensive Plan has an implementation goal number 2 to develop a traditional neighborhood development ordinance. It's on page 222.
When did you do that?
Was 2006 item. Committee was appointed in 2006, so.
Not bad.
Yeah. I had a couple of sort of detailed comments. On page 3, we talk about line 126. Commercial land uses shall be located at one or more nodes. I just wondered if we wanted to define nodes, because that's not a common terminology in our code. And I just bring that up. And one that Bill Hammond actually has discussed in the past is on page 6, number 179 through 181. Between lot walkways. City may require between lot walkway within an easement or public right-of-way. The question that Bill raises is, who maintains that?
You betcha.
So is something that we need to, I don't know how to deal with that. Not that maybe we don't want those, that's not my point, but it is presently an issue apparently within the city. Also on page 7, line 199, a word is missing. Streets, except for alleys, shall be bordered by a sidewalk on both sides, needs to be put in. And those are my comments. Other initial discussion by the commission.
What does Public Works say about clearing snow out of alleys?
Yeah, well, you know, a lot of these, T&Ds that we visited too had their own maintenance group, what do they call them? They would pay a fee.
There'd be a homeowners association.
Homeowner association to do the alleys too. Because, these things are so, the alleys are so narrow, so the public plows don't go down there. So,
And then you wind up plowing 2 garage doors, shoving snow off to the side.
so a lot of, some have they're paying a monthly fee for a maintenance aspect. I assume that they would do the sidewalks. But right now, currently, inner block sidewalks are not shoveled. In the city of Evansville.
Other discussion from the commission. Okay, I will open the public hearing at 7:13. Are there comments from the public? Any comments from the public?
Things that we've talked about before, it can be a church, it can be a community center.
Daycare
There needs to
center.
be focus for those nodes, but it doesn't have to be a business, so I appreciate your concerns, and I think that can be taken care of. As we go forward.
I went through this whole personally, I went through this whole process, and to be honest with you, I would probably never buy a home in a traditional neighborhood. That's not my style. Although I think that doesn't mean we shouldn't allow that variety for other residents who do love them, and think that this is really a way to go. So I'm in favor of the ordinance, even though I don't think I've ever lived in one.
Do we have an area that this is designated to?
Yes, we were looking at the, I believe it would be the Emory properties off to the northwest side.
Or where's this at?
And the Moss properties.
And the Moss properties, that's it, the Moss properties, yeah.
Down the Yale Water Tower. And the Gilder property.
And the
Yeah.
Gilder
It's for the
property.
future. It's not something that's.
Could be retroactive.
Okay.
Is there other discussion?
And the Gilder property is a good example, a node of a commercial development would be along Highway 14. And then the residential building would be behind it. It would be a node.
Other discussion?
So how do we make sure that that definition is in the ordinance?
There is some definition. I thought I saw it in one of our meetings.
I never even thought about it, I just know that.
Well, again, this kind of lays out a general framework. Okay, and we're gonna be going through and looking at the general development plan, and that general development plan is gonna have lots, and it's gonna have land uses designated for each of the lots. Okay, the intent is not to have commercial all over the place. Okay, so we can identify on that general development plan where the commercial is gonna be, and whether that's appropriate or not. So the city has a lot of control over how much and where it occurs and how it's,
If it occurs.
planned out, if it occurs. I mean, it's not required. Some T&D ordinances require a certain percentage of commercial. That's not gonna, work here.
Once we approve this, should we approve it this evening, can it be amended down the road per se when
Sure.
building?
This is just like any other zoning district.
Other discussion? I just brought up the node, because some people may not know what it means. It's not necessary if you think it's obvious, so. Any other discussion? Okay, I would entertain a motion.
I'll take a motion, motion to recommend to common council the adoption of ordinance 2007-9 as drafted.
The motion is to recommend to council the adoption of ordinance 2007-9 as drafted. Is there discussion? Yes.
Did you want to amend the draft as written on page 7?
Want to
Yes.
approve the typo?
Yeah,
Missing word
yeah.
199?
Okay. Can I have an amendment?
I'll take amendment to include, what was the word?
Size.
Size, on page 9,
On page
line
7.
7, line
199.
There you go.
Is there a second?
I second.
Way to jump in front of that.
Yeah.
Is there discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Go back to the main motion. Motion is to recommend to council the adoption of ordinance 2007-9 as drafted with the correction of the typo on page 7. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Let's move on to 7.
Fences are like signs. Or they can be. Okay? Right now, the city does have in its municipal code some references to fences, and it started out in public works, and it came to plan commission. Plan commission reviewed a number of drafts. We looked at different ordinances from other communities, and this is intended to address the issues that have arisen within the last 6 to 9 months.
Actually longer than
Okay. So what we did in the ordinance is to strike some of the existing language and to add more clarity by adding additional language. I can walk through the ordinance on the second page, section 2. We have a definition for what a fence is. We have definitions for yard and front yard, rear yard and side yard. On top of page 3, we have a diagram showing various lots with different configuration of buildings and garages, and what would be considered a front yard, rear yard, side yard, and a side yard on a street side. And these are necessary because what we do is we regulate the height of fences, and the height is going to vary if you're in a front yard, side yard, or rear yard.
Based on a vision triangle as you're turning the corner and things like that.
Correct. By reference, we're adopting attachment A. And we do have more information about fences in terms of what fences this would apply to. A fence less than 30 inches in height would not have to be in conformance with this requirement. We have a definition of how you measure the height of a fence, because apparently that's been an issue in the past. We have construction specifications for the height and the width and the orientation, materials, and vertical support, and trellises and arbors. Kind of highlight in the front yard, we're calling for rather low fences. On the side yard, they can be a little taller. On the rear yard, they can be up to 6 feet in height. And it also depends if you're in a residential district or a commercial or industrial district. On the following page, we have language referring to where fences might occur. We have references to the property boundary line, to utility lines, to easements, drainage easements. And then we have a diagram, and this refers to a stepped fence where it's on a slope. And how you measure where the average height is. Between posts can't exceed 8 feet, and you measure the height of the fence at the midpoint. Under subparagraph E, swimming pools, there is an association, American National, or I'm sorry, the Association of Pool and Spa Professionals. They work with ANSI, American National Standards Institute, and they develop specific standards for swimming pools. And rather than copy all that and bring it into this document, we just make reference to it. And a copy of that, standard would be available at City Hall here for people to take a look at and for Ward to refer to. Tennis courts and other sports facilities, the size or the height of the fence can be up to 12 feet. Again, that would have to occur in the backyard. It couldn't occur in the front yard, side yard, or rear yard. And then we have standards for temporary fencing and barbed wire fencing and electric fencing. And the last item is maintenance. Fence shall be maintained in a structurally sound and attractive manner. So, here again, that was a brief overview, and we can talk about any of these in more detail.
Okay, initial discussion by the commission.
Yes, Your Honor, this Board of Public Works, and I was chairman. The existing fence ordinance that we have is very short and very brief, and there's not much to it. 6 feet, a couple of definitions on where you put it on the lot line, that's about it. What we have done then is set up a ordinance, which is really nothing in it, that allows for neighbors to fight with each other regarding fences. We saw one tonight. In fact, we also saw tonight a listing of 20, 30 homes that do not even apply, that don't even meet our very simple existing fence ordinance. What happens when we have fences around town? There's fences. There's a pretty side of a fence and an ugly side of a fence. We have a lot of fences around town. The pretty side is facing into the property owner, and the ugly side goes to the neighbor and such. I mean, that leads to a lot of battles between two neighbors. But what we do when two neighbors have a complaint about fences, like with the Ray Nipple case today, is that we basically refer to the courts to settle it. And we stay out of that, which allows two neighbors to fight amongst each other. And there's examples in town where people move because of this battle and such. I find it bad to have set up a system where our regulations force people neighbors into fighting something. My thoughts were, if we have a fence ordinance that we can all live with, one neighbor puts a fence up there, it meets these regulations, and the other neighbor can agree that it looks nice and applicable, and there shouldn't be any arguments that need to be fought in court. That was my hope, and that's what hope that this ordinance provides. Thank you.
Other discussion.
I'm looking at page 1, where it has the trellis shown,
Yeah.
and then down the bottom there for exhibit 2, the maximum fence height. I'm wondering if the side yard interior lot and the side yard street lot should be reversed. Because the street lot should be the shorter of the two, would be my guess, as you're coming around the corner on the street, turning on another street. You don't want a 6-foot fence to have to see, Am I right?
You're right. That is incorrect.
So the two side yards are transposed?
Right. So exhibit 2, side yard interior lot should be side yard street side.
I agree with Bill, especially on orientation. sounds almost minuscule, but what's the ugly side of the fence and where does it belong? If you're going to make an ugly side, you're going to have to live with it on your side. The remediation for that is build a fence that's covered on both sides and then nobody has to deal with it. But if you don't put that in here, it's going to be a bone of contention. Couple of questions. On page 1 under vertical support specs, what was the reasoning behind the 24 inches in width and more than 8 inches above the top of the highest point of the adjoining fence?
Dave Wortweiler looked at the initial draft and he made some recommended changes, and this is one of them. And the thought was not only would this apply to skinny fences, these specs would apply to wide masonry walls that would act as a fence.
The reason I bring it up is Romano's new decorative wall in compliance with this? How big are those support posts?
I've not measured them, but I don't believe they're more than 24 inches wide.
And how tall above the fence itself?
What about Nelson Young, too?
Yeah.
They're common.
Yeah. Romano's fence would not meet the height requirements for the front yard.
And when we're measuring this 8 inches above the top of the highest point of the adjoining fence, if the fence is in waves, as long as that wave comes up and meets that support post, then it's not above the fence. It's in I-1, one course of barbed wire in industrial zone. Do we have any fences, and I'm thinking wastewater right now, that have the curved top with the 3 barbed wire strands across?
Yeah, there.
I meant to drive by there this morning.
Pretty sure if there's.
Yeah, it's that angle with more than one row.
That's a pretty common construction. And I'm thinking in industrial zoning, this one course of barbed wire may not be what some deem sufficient. We certainly don't want barbed wire in residential. I've seen that too.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with I don't understand the significance of the 8 inches below the fence. I saw higher ones, and they didn't look offensive to me. I'm in the Garfield area. And beyond that, matter of fact, there's some older homes that carried the columns. That didn't seem offensive to me. What would be the reason to have them lower? Just to give it more of a
It's basically a design consideration, aesthetics.
You can see at some
Or it
point
could be something more.
somebody wanting to make a point and putting flagpoles for his fence supports. And not only 18 or 20 feet.
Right.
There's nothing like that.
My biggest question is there's no grandfathering language in here, which means when this ordinance would be passed, I can only begin to believe we will have a war with how many fences will not be compliant. So I think we do have to consider some grandfathering. And I noticed that you took out an old grandfathering from the original language, but I don't think the city wants to be in the position of basically having everybody redo their fences.
I agree, Your Honor. I didn't realize there was no grandfathering clause. There should be. This is for everything going forward.
And that old grandfathering went back 28 years. And my thought was a lot of those fences are not gone. Do we change the grandfather language to now?
And then the old language also indicated that if the property is sold, then the fence may need to be conformed. There could be incidences where, you know, somebody just, there's a nice wrought iron fence or
Especially
something.
30 days after closing.
Yeah. Anyway, that's an issue I think that is definitely necessary to be dealt with.
I suggest we go back with the grandfather to April 10th, 1979, and leave it at that.
And then just the first sentence?
Yeah, I mean, most of our fence issues, when we really get down to the dirty of the fence issues, it's not the new ones. It's not the ones that are already there. People already live with it. They've already had the battle. The neighbors are already fighting it. They've already gone to court. You can't do much about that. If we, let's stop all the new battles which are occurring on a daily basis, or not daily, but a monthly basis rather.
If we grandfather to adoption, don't we by inference bring all of those fences along?
Yeah,
Yep.
So we don't need to make
Yeah,
it
so we could
79
just-
inch.
we could
Oh,
just make
sure.
it this, the
Whatever you
date
want.
of adoption.
Whatever its name is. August, well, whatever. 6. Actually,
Yeah,
council.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that was one concern. I am sitting, it's the maximum fence height, and what my concern is, I understand why we don't want really high front yard fences. And I understand the visual necessity of a side yard, but are we accommodating, a lot of people put fences in for dogs, that we've got an adequate fence if someone has a large dog and wants to fence in their backyard. That, I don't know if we're accommodating that.
6 feet.
But a side yard, a street side yard is 3 feet. And, you know, it would be back from the corner a ways if you were fencing just your backyard. But anyway, I just, there are a lot of big dogs in this community. And I just wanted to make sure we're dealing with that.